All right, Leo.
It's time. It's time. Throw away your passwords. You just throw them away. You don't need them. You just get rid of them. Just forget them. You don't need them anymore at all. So what you need to do is get locked in to your vendor and go full on passkeys. And when they're all deleted, you're up a creek without a paddle. Right? No, wait, no.
No, not really. No. Thankfully, not all your eggs are in the same basket. Hopefully, you're cautious about that. But in reality, right? So we've been hawking passkeys. We talked about it last time. Passwords and passkeys can still coexist. You can still log into your accounts with passwords and your MFA stuff that you have set up today.
Right.
Even if you decide to choose to adopt passkeys. So all is not lost. You'll be okay. Just trust us.
So here's where a lot of this comes from. I mean, Microsoft has embraced passkeys with Windows Hello and other biometrics. iOS has had passkeys for a little while. Android, I think, is now. I mean, we're fully on the passkey train. Close. We're there. Bitwarden supports passkeys. 1Password supports passkeys. It just and more websites every single day are supporting passkeys. So we're in a situation where it looks like passkeys are actually at a stage where at least people are expecting wider adoption. And I'm 1,000% all behind that because passkeys are just better than username and password combo. And I would go one further and say, not only is it better than that, it's better than usernames, passwords, and MFA, time-based one-time passwords specifically.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The one thing that kind of gave me pause for a little bit, Linuxsys on Mastodon mentioned first year's blogalog, passkeys, a shattered dream, and then pointed me to the Security Now, which is a fantastic podcast. I try not to miss any, but then I'll go months without listening, and then I'll have to get caught up. So the next 2 weeks is just Steve.
Yes. Steve Gibson. Yep.
Yeah, and he covers it as well, and even kind of soured on it. So the reason that first year's blogalog is important is because this person is actually the developer for the Rust implementation of WebAuthn, which is the actual spine, the backing of the actual authentication process implemented in Rust. So they know what they're talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
And they go through this story, which admittedly was written in 2019 and kind of more of it was added on later on. So this is about a 5-year kind of blog that has been amended over time that goes over the story of essentially my wife thought passkeys were really, really cool. She bought into it, started using it all the time, and then the Apple implementation, the iOS passkeys thing, just deleted some of them. And then she couldn't log in.
Just couldn't log in
to things. Yeah. And I mean, when you're all in on passkeys, especially in an early adopter type situation like that, I mean, that kind of thing happens.
That's a bad feeling. Yeah.
And it stings. And so the conclusion of all of that was, I'm going to keep the author here. I'm going to keep maintaining the Rust implementation of WebAuthn. That's not going anywhere. It's gonna continue.
Right.
But passkeys has lost its luster, and usernames and passwords are looking pretty good.
It can happen even with traditional username password, right? It happens all the time. People forget their password, and then they get locked out of their account, and then they've got to go do the recovery thing and prove their identity depending on what thing they're trying to log into. So it's not a unique problem. And so that's why you got to create your own hygiene there, if you will, I feel like, and have that option of another way to get that back. And you got to keep that maintenance going on that.
That, I think, is really where the crux of the issue is. And they speak to this a little bit in the blog. But the real problem with Passkeys is not with the technology.
Right.
The implementation, Passkeys itself is superior in every way to passwords.
Absolutely.
It's simpler in every way than passwords. And it gets you better security than passwords, including when you add in time-based one-time passwords.
Right.
But the problem really lies with vendors have taken this technology that is fantastic, that was open by the FIDO group originally, open, and tied it to their platforms and made it difficult to move. So if you've got 100 passkeys to 100 different websites, which is what you would end up doing, if you embraced passkeys, you would end up having one for every single thing. Just like you have a unique password for every single service that you log into, right? Right?
You'd never reuse your password, ever.
Never. Right? But it's just one of the benefits of passkeys is that you don't even have to think about reuse. It's thought of for you, but the problem is that it's tied to a specific service, and they're not too keen, though it looks like both Google and Apple are moving toward being able to export them and move them from place to place. It doesn't seem like they're just in a hurry.
No, and in theory, they sync between, if you have multiple, say, iOS devices or multiple Android devices.
Yeah, but
in theory
that's
they
platform.
sync. But I don't know how much I like that. Right? I mean, that's where it starts to get a little creepy for me.
That still locks you in, right? Because if you have all these passkeys built into your iPhone, then that is just a mark against Google.
I agree.
If you decide, you know what? Yeah, I don't think I want to be on Apple again. I think I want to go to Google. Well, now you have to consider, well, how do you get your passkeys over? Well, Apple doesn't let you export, so you can't. But the reverse is true as well. Someone considering moving to the Apple ecosystem. Well, Google makes it kind of difficult to export those things and actually pass them over. So how would you move? You're locked in. So that is part of the deep-seated issue that happens with almost every single service that we're dealing with nowadays. Yeah. And it's not good. That lock-in is not good. I've got an answer for you, though. So
yeah, I think we do. I think we found the sweet spot.
But that, I think, is really the crux of the issue. But that's also the way that is going to convince regular people that do use the same username and password on every single service out there to get on board with a better way to do things.
Yeah, so if you remove some of that barrier to entry and you make it convenient for people, the adoption will go up. Absolutely. And that's what they're looking to do here, is make it easy for the people to adopt. And, at first it's a little cumbersome because you gotta remove the thoughts of how it used to work for you with the username and password stuff and adopt the new way. And once you do it a few times, like Leo said last time, it's remarkable how easy it is to go. I mean, it's amazing.
If you've never used one, if you've never gone through the process of creating a passkey for an account, that's an existing account or starting fresh, I think you would be surprised just how easy it actually can be. And I'm not even talking about using the Apple integrated version of Passkeys or the Google integrated version of Passkeys. I think both Dan and I kind of agree Bitwarden's the answer to this. It's always been the answer.
Yeah. And so you say, well, you put all that stuff in your Bitwarden. It's the, the eggs in that basket now, right?
Yeah.
However, I think as a way to get yourself over that hump, I think using a hardware key, right, to be able to get into your Bitwarden, sure, that does lock in some of that. But I mean, you've certainly taken every effort to secure your Bitwarden, and then you should not have to worry about someone cracking into that at that point. I don't think, right?
Right. So, I mean, you should already probably have a stupidly long password to get into your Bitwarden in the first place, right? But if, in lieu of that, a hardware key is the best way to do that. And so that the hardware, physical, actual hardware key, or that massive master password is already one factor.
Yeah. And then so I'm doing that, right?
Right.
I'm super long password, and then it says, okay, stick your key in there, hitting that. So now I'm feeling like that's about as secure as that can be.
Right.
And it is complicated, but you only have to do that one time. Well, I mean, when you first log in or whatever.
Exactly. All right. So I think we gotta rewind a little bit and break these things down. So we've kind of covered usernames, passwords kind of suck, but I want to go further into that. TOTP adds a bit of a layer of
just a little bit.
It's a second factor. It adds protection. That's great, but we got to go even further back than this. So we got to talk about, or at least start to crack this egg of, okay, passkeys rely on this special kind of key system where it's public key, private key. What is all of this? And so let's start at the beginning. So if you've ever logged into SSH on Linux using a username and password, right? That is one way to do it. But there's another way. And Linux admins and pretty much anybody that's been remotely logging into Linux for a long time has at least heard of this public-private key pair that you can use to log in. You need a username, and you provide your private key. And then bingo, bango. You can add a password onto that if you'd like. And then voila, you're in. You're great. But it's that it adds an insane amount of security to that, because it's a private key that only you have. It's a little file that only you have, and it rests on encryption.
Yeah, so it's so unique that you can't recreate it. That's the thing.
Right.
Yeah.
We have not figured out how to undo this yet.
No.
Maybe one day with quantum computing, and then we'll move on to Passkeys version 2. But as of right now, this is our best hope. And this is really what underpins Passkeys. This is why they are better than usernames and passwords. So I kind of want to go back to why usernames and passwords kind of suck.
Yeah, well, those are absolutely terrible. Everybody knows that at this point, right? I mean,
but why are they terrible?
Well, I mean, so you're looking at double digits tops for characters, right? Inside your password, because your brain's not that big. It can't hold, 100 characters probably really very well. And most things won't accept it either. That's the other thing. Right, because that's just too big.
You do got to remember that, maybe not you, because you use a password manager and you crank it all the way up to 128 characters and you use those for every single website that you log into. You got to remember that.
That's cool.
This is also regular people that don't even know what a password manager is.
Right.
They've been told 12 times. They still don't know. And, that's
ultimately,
fine.
You have to have something to get into that too, right?
Right.
So,
yeah, exactly.
So username, password, not enough, because you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, and for super low level folks, the master password for that is ABC123321CBA.
Yeah, maybe.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So usernames and passwords kind of suck, because usernames are typically set in the clear. So that part doesn't really help.
Yeah, I mean.
And the passwords are hashed on the server side at best, hashed and encrypted, right? So when somebody knocks over the server and gets a copy of the hashes, the encrypted hashes of those passwords, it's only a matter of time. It might be days, but sometimes it's years. But it doesn't matter, because eventually, that password will be cracked. And you're saying, no.
Well, I mean, really though, I mean, if they get a dump of a bunch of passwords, and so they have a bunch of hashes, they can find out what makes that hash unique, and then they have all the passwords, right?
Exactly. So there are tons of these techniques to be able to get into these types of databases that are getting knocked over left and right. Just look at the news. Just company after company. We are so sorry. We had a network breach and, these hashed passwords. But don't worry. They were hashed passwords. Were, exfiltrated from our company and, but don't worry.
Yeah, don't worry.
It wasn't in clear text. It's okay. As if the attackers aren't going to just immediately dump that into something like Hashcat to just churn and churn and churn and churn with NVIDIA graphics cards day after day after day to try and get those cracked. I mean, there was a time when we thought 3DES was the pinnacle of security. And now you look at the password hash wrong and the password pops out. You don't even need a Pentium 2 to actually crack those passwords anymore. It's only a matter of time.
Yeah, and going back to the Passkeys, sure, maybe we're just kicking the can a little further down the road, but I think we need to, right?
Yes.
Because the time is now.
That's all we have in this industry, continuously playing a game of cat and mouse. I mean, Linux is no different. There are flaws found all the time. We have to patch those flaws. Patching those flaws is just kicking the can down the road because a lot of times those patches don't actually address the root cause. This is just the game that we play. So passwords are terrible. We've known this for years. We finally have a better solution that everybody seems to be adopting. Passwords kinda suck. So, what is the current solution for all of that? Time-based one-time passwords. That is, or some
MFA, 2FA, whatever we're calling it, right? Some other factor, something you have.
Right.
Hopefully.
And Bitwarden can do that for you too, though we'll talk about eggs and baskets in a minute.
Right.
But you can have additional apps. Maybe you do 1Password for only your time-based one-time passwords, and then you use Bitwarden for your password and passkey storage. Or you have a YubiKey that stores those types of things. Or, there are many ways
there's a bunch of options. Yep.
Multi-factor.
And it is good you're splitting those things about so that you're not totally lost when one of them goes away, hopefully. But you kind of are. I mean, because if you are requiring MFA and you lost your MFA thing, well, that's no good. Or if you lost your password, well, you're still in the same boat.
Well, just another chalk mark up for usernames, passwords kind of suck. They don't actually matter because
not really.
What is the one button that exists under every single username and password prompt?
Forgot my password.
And where does that send it to?
Right down into your email.
So what's good is your password?
No, because the email, that's the thing we cracked into.
Exactly. So if you lost your email because you didn't have time-based one-time password or even better passkeys, then you're extra messed up because now they have access to any forgot your password button on any website you've ever logged into.
All the buttons. Yeah.
So chalk another one up for the way we do things is bad. So time-based one-time passwords are slightly better. There's a private key involved here, but it's not public private key style. It is just one massive password represented by a QR code that you share with the server side. The server side has the same thing that you have. You take the time of day, the very specific time of day too. It's not just like March 3rd.
It's a time calculation.
Very specific time of day, and you smash that into the private key, and you come up with this new code. And that code changes all the time based on the time of day. And that's what you put in addition to your username and password to be able to log in.
But wait a minute, Leo. We shared our private key.
Exactly.
There's the problem.
If you get knocked over or if I get knocked over, we're both messed up. But, we're assuming that people won't have the username and password and time-based one-time password, right? That's where multi-factor is fantastic. That is where the extra layer of security comes in. And you're right, it helps. So time-based one-time passwords are fantastic. Do not get me wrong. Adding that to any username password combo is a huge step up from just username password. Even if it's a 128 character username password, it's still an upgrade. So definitely, if there's no other option, obviously do your time-based one-time passwords.
Definitely.
But if that shared key, that private key is ever let out, the jig is up.
Absolutely.
So that's where passkeys come in, right? If Dan's side is compromised, it doesn't matter because they still won't have my secret.
Right.
And if my side is compromised, then they won't have Dan's secret.
It's still good.
We still have this encrypted exchange and no one is any the wiser. This is why passkeys are better.
Right.
Because they rely on not one party, not me, not Dan, but both together. And this is the beauty of it. Just like we've been saying over and over and over again. No, don't reuse your password. Don't have the...
They're unique. Yeah.
Yep. And don't even have the same username for each service. But this is where passkeys shine. By default. By default. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to randomize. Nothing. Every website gets a new public-private key pair. Every website. So even in the worst case, you're still better off than any other solution that we've come up to so far.
All right. So you sold me on the technical bits, Leo. It's super hard to crack.
Well, it's just you and me now. We've lost everybody at this point.
All right. So here's the big thing to take away. It's easy, right?
No.
You don't have... Yes. So security is not supposed to be convenient, but this breaks that mold, if you will. And it is easy. So you go... I mean, I'm going to give you some links. And yeah, it's some Google Docs, but I mean, it kind of describes step by step how easy it can be. You click create passkey. If you have Bitwarden, like in your browser, you've got the browser extension. It'll say, okay, you got this account. I mean, do you want to be using a passkey here? And basically after that, it's just click and go every time you want to log into that web page.
Every single time. We alluded to it a little bit before, but that's the answer. So we kind of opened this up with First Year's Blogalog talking about how, well, Apple's trying to just use this as a way to keep you into the Apple ecosystem. Google is using this to try to... Microsoft is using this as a way. Yeah, they are. They've always done this. They have done this over and over and over. Stop playing into the game. Use Bitwarden.
Yeah.
Use 1Password. Use a better cross-platform, exportable, encryptable option.
Yeah.
And for the people that end up naysaying, they're probably already using one of those solutions.
Yeah.
Just keep
exactly.
doing what you're doing, but use the thing that's obviously better than passwords.
Right.
I think the one thing that we have an uphill battle on is not everything supports passkeys.
Not yet.
At least my solution, I think Dan agrees, is just swap them over when support comes and when you feel comfortable.
Yep. And you don't have to abandon your username and password stuff and your MFA that you have existing. You can still keep that for, until you...
Safety reasons.
Ever.
Right? Why not? Why not? If the service supports it, if you're using... Even if you are using something that's tied into a platform, even if you're using Microsoft Hello, even if you're using Apple stuff. I mean, the answer to that is, well, I have a Linux laptop. Well, that kind of breaks it, but...
Well, I'll turn this on its head, right? So we talked about using like a hardware key, like a YubiKey, to get into your Bitwarden.
That's the answer.
And that's great, right? But you could turn this the other way too, right? You could use your YubiKey for your passkey stuff too, because then you've broken free, I guess, of the password manager, and you're using a hardware key, something you physically have in your hand.
Yep. Plug it into your PC. You need to authenticate? Boop.
And they are stored right on that, right? And so they've talked about increasing the storage on your YubiKeys.
They just did. A few days ago. They upped the number with a firmware upgrade to some of their newer keys, and the newest keys that they're coming out with, they now support up to, I wish it were higher, but I'll take what I can get, 100. Yeah. We've got 100 passkeys, and in my Bitwarden, this includes other people's accounts, so I probably don't actually have this many accounts. I have 126 living in Bitwarden. Secured by, my master password lives on my YubiKey, so you got to come and like steal my YubiKey to then go download my encrypted storage to then use that to authenticate in to then steal all my stuff. Right. So, I mean, like.
Yeah. So, Leo has made it extra hard, but you don't have to do that.
It's hard mode, but I mean, well, you should. I do think you should.
You should, but you don't have to. And it's still very, very secure.
Yeah.
Like I said, if you wanted to skip the whole Bitwarden thing, say you don't have Bitwarden, that's fine. You can obviously just store those passkeys right on.
Yeah. You can skip the Bitwarden step. Yeah.
You totally can. And then from there, like, it's in your hand. The key is in your hand.
Or on your keychain, and then you forget that your keychain is in the next room when you're trying to log into something, and you're like, oh, God, now I have to get up and go get it.
But, like, it's in your possession at that point, right? And so it can't be taken away from you, essentially.
So, if you couldn't tell, I'm on board, man. I've converted.
One way or another.
My GitHub is passkey now. I'm on Best Buy with the passkey. Amazon's got a passkey. I've got Google is on a passkey. Like, as I encounter the passkey login thing, I'm like, oh yeah, buddy. As soon as I log in normally, I'm gonna go add a passkey.
Even if you want to take an extra step on your YubiKey, you can put a pin on that, right? So whenever it prompts you for the passkey, you enter your pin. So that, say your YubiKey wasn't in your possession.
Multi-factor.
Yeah, you say your YubiKey wasn't in your possession, for whatever reason. Your kid came along and stuffed it in their backpack or something, right? And they wanted to use it. They can't because they need your pin.
Oh, yeah. Multi-factor authentication.
So
yeah.
There's a couple of ways to secure things really tight.
Right. So I think that does kind of like push away the idea that passkeys aren't really multi-factor authentication. I mean, yes, they're one factor, but you can secure them in a place that requires... You can
secure them in a way,
more than one factor, making it 2, 3, 4, 5 factor authentication. Right?
Yeah.
Like, so
it's amazing.
Passkeys can be much more than just a single factor. You need your face or your fingerprint or your whatever to open the app, to put in the password, to be able to get to your passkeys. It's always been multi-factor. So it's, I don't think that argument holds much water.
I don't think so either.
Multi-factor. So it's just something I think that folks should try out on accounts they don't really care about. Just try it out.
Get comfortable. Yep.
If you're already using Bitwarden, all the better. You probably have the extension. You probably have the app. And it integrates into everything. So just swap one over and see what happens. See if you like the experience. Because even if the experience is exactly the same for you, and I've seen this argument too, to us, that is it even any better than passwords, experience-wise? Not really. I mean, if Bitwarden's going to be doing all of the heavy lifting for you anyway and just dumping your username and password into this place or that place or whatever, then no, the experience isn't really any different.
Right.
But it's not about, in that case, because you've already turned on the easy mode, it's not about the experience anymore. It's about the security that you get by using a superior way to authenticate. So catch these and other great topics as they unfold on our Lemmy subreddit or our news channel on Discord, or you just got to tune in. You just got to tune in.
Yeah.
Because this whole Passkeys thing, it was foreboding. We dropped it. We dropped hints. They weren't hints. They were quite literal. This is what I'm going to talk about.
This is exactly it, yeah.
So if you're not following along with the shows themselves, go join one of the places. Bring up one of these topics. I guarantee you're going to suck me in.
No doubt.
And I will tip-a-tap my opinions about all of this, unless I'm just doing my absolute best, which is what happened these past few days over on Discord. It was Daniel. Yeah. Daniel kept dropping these Passkeys things, and I had to resist. Oh my God.
Yeah, we didn't want to give away all the show before the show.
Seriously, all the stuff that I was going to say on the show, I had to resist because I wanted to just type out an entire page of everything, my opinions and everything about everything in the Discord. So, so if you just hit me just right, I'll have to just not say anything because
exactly
that's the whole show. But you better believe that after this show drops, I'm gonna go drop all these opinions in there and everything, and then hopefully we get to explain it a little bit more.
We're listening. We're doing that.
Definitely. And if you hang on long enough, you'll see.
You'll get your reply.